Welcome to Restoring the Mosaic and Truth Talks with Dr. Ann today. So I am so excited because just last week, well, within the last 2 weeks, I have been in Barbados. See the tan? I've been trying to perfect my tan. Anyways, but I was there for a very special event, and it was hosted by a young woman that I met when I was in Poland. That was October. Anyways, so here we met in Poland, and then she had a vision to do a conference. So I'm going to introduce you to my friend Marcia Weekes. Marcia, thank you very much for coming with me today on this little bit of a journey about your life and why you're doing what you're doing. Very excited to have
Thank you so much, Dr. Ann. It's a pleasure to be here and to see you again. I'm still in the warmth, and I see you're wearing a jacket. That means you're in the cold.
Yes, it's very warm there in Barbados. I have to say, I had a wonderful time just meeting people, and just I had a wonderful conversation. You won't know about this probably, but with our taxi driver, he took me to the airport, and what a delightful young man. Yeah, we're talking about worship music and church and needing to bring back hymns and all kinds of stuff. Anyways, that's a little bit of an aside, but can you tell us a little bit about your background professionally? Because you have quite an extensive history, which I wasn't totally aware of until I was actually in Barbados. So it's very exciting.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. Well, my professional training is an accountant. I am a CPA, certified public accountant by profession. However, shortly after I started to work in the US as a CPA, that's where I studied actually, and I received a call from God that He wanted me to work with young people, and I would need to do it in the Caribbean. So long story short, we packed up. My husband and I. God, of course, would have spoken to my husband before he spoke to me. And so by the time I went to him crying, I was like, we have to leave. It's like, oh, God already spoke to me about it. Confirmed by our 6-year-old son, who got a dream that, we were on our way to Barbados to see his cousins, and that God told him that he would be back in the US at a certain time. So, and he was 6. And so that was the additional confirmation that we needed, And so we came to Barbados, and I kind of hung up my accounting hat and started working with young people. I didn't really understand what was happening at the time, what it meant, at the time. It was a difficult process. I said that very, very, calmly, but it was difficult, But I, always loved the arts, and always would. As a child, I was part of a singing group. I was always acting. I was always doing a lot of theatrical productions, always involved. So I knew right away that God wanted me to use that, those skills to reach young people in Barbados and the Caribbean. And so we came to Barbados. This is where my husband is from. I'm from Jamaica, and he's Barbadian. And so we came back to Barbados and decided to start working with young people in Barbados. And this is now, I'm giving you the very short version. This is now 22 years later, and I would have done 8 feature films, of which I've received several awards for. And all these films are teaching various principles. The first film was about teenage pregnancy and abortion, and talking about the value of life. And that film really put us on the map. And all the schools were bused to the cinema to see the films, to see that particular film. And the teachers used it in their curricula. Yes.
So that is incredible that film was actually in theaters, and that the schools bus the children.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
because in Canada, that they will bus children everywhere to see other things, but not something that talks about the value of life. Wow,
Yes.
that's encouraging. Okay, I interrupted.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah. No, but no, that it was unusual for me as well, because I had just done that film, Dr. Anne, to encourage people to use the arts to communicate messages, positive messages to our youth. And so it was part of a conference that I did. And so that was like the feature thing at the end. And however, a Rastafari guy who was also a filmmaker in Barbados, he said, "Why do you do a film and take it to a hotel? If you do a film, you should take it to the cinema." And so I took it to the cinema just to premiere it at the cinema. And the people loved it. And from there, we started to write the schools and ask them, told them what it was about. Because that was a directive that I got from God, to reach out to the schools. And they came in droves. The buses, and people were wondering, what's happening at the cinema in the middle of the day, all these children. And we then created a retreat for them with psychologists and guidance counselors, etc. We got permission from the parents, as of course, and then dealt with a lot of the girls that were going through various issues, emotional issues. There were children there in their school uniform who were pregnant, and their parents didn't know. There were children, we drove them from the cinema to their homes so that so they could talk to their parents and to tell their parents that they were pregnant. So it was, it was quite a baptism then in this area of using the arts to share messages. And so we've had 8 films. We've dealt with homosexuality. We've dealt with abuse. So we looked at some of those issues, as you talk about trauma. So we looked at some of those issues as well that affect our young people. And all the just whatever is happening, bullying, whatever is happening, we would include that, the impact of poverty on children. All of those issues are dealt with in these films. And then I would have done like probably about 34 theatrical productions and live productions on stage in Barbados and throughout the region. We've traveled with them to Africa and to the UK and throughout the US and Canada, etc. On behalf of the government, sometimes they would pay us and send us, buy our tickets and send us to represent the country. But we would do it with a positive message. So this has been going on for 22 years. That's what we've been doing.
What an opportunity to bring truth to young people, to children and young people. Oh my goodness, that was incredible. I got to see a little bit of what you do with young people in the theater production side of it when I was in Barbados. Why don't we go back and talk about that particular group and that particular production, because something happened, something changed recently with the acceptance of truth.
Well, we have been, as I said before, presenting these messages for over 22 years in Barbados and the Caribbean. We've won so many awards. Won awards in Africa, throughout the region, and in Barbados. So we a lot of times what we do, we go into secular environments. So there is something here called the National Independence Festival of Creative Arts, and we are a staple there. They look forward to us, and we present very, very good productions. And so I in the summer I wrote a production that dealt with um, gender identity. It was a story of a 15-year-old girl, Zoe, who was struggling with her gender identity, and she finds her identity in God and in His Word. And this production was based on Genesis 1:27, I believe, which talks about us, God creating male and female. And so we presented the production. We rented a hall and presented the production to, it was a packed hall. When we were finished, it was a standing ovation. So, as we would normally do, Dr. Ann, we would take an excerpt of that production and then, put it in our national competition. That's what we do all the time. And so we did that. I was in Poland when it happened. As God would have it, I was in Poland at the conference that we had. It was
Yes.
Changing the Tides, dealing with that particular issue my first time. And while I was there, I was told that the entry was disqualified by the government. And I'm trying to figure out why would they disqualify the piece? As I said, we're always welcome there. We had other pieces in, but this particular piece was disqualified. We had two pieces in. One was a dance, and one was this theatrical production. And so it was dance, music, and drama. And when we queried, we were told that the piece was not in good taste, was in poor taste, and that it discriminated against a group of people, and that they couldn't allow it in the competition. Now, what's interesting is that piece was basically saying, that there are two sexes, is either male or female, just what Genesis says and what science says, and the children were making a declaration that they're not transgender, they're not cisgender, they're none of those things. They're who God created them to be. And in Barbados, they would believe that could not be said, and so it went to arbitration, and they came back with the same results again, that we were disqualified. And so now it is a situation where it would be brought before the courts, because it's not about the disqualification, but it's the implication of just what does that mean for people of faith? That means there are sections of the Bible that we're not going to be able to preach. It doesn't mean that in school that there's a certain type of biology that we have been teaching since before I was born, that teachers would not be able to teach that anymore. So that's the situation.
And that is exactly and that's kind of why we really connected, because in Canada, we have been on a fast track to eradicating biology, male and female, and to really elevating individuals and young people, particularly, who would claim that they are in the wrong body, that as a girl they actually are a boy. And so these are individuals that historically were such a small percentage of the population that would possibly become transsexual. And the actual statistics on that was like 0.014% of the entire population. Very, very small percentage until about 2010. And then we see things starting to go upwards with this new kind of sex ed and a promotion of something called transgender. And the transgender, so the transgender children Well, there really are no transgender children. There are children who have struggled historically with gender dysphoria, but what we're seeing now, and I'm sure what this is all about for you in Barbados too, with this disqualification, is that there is a push to identify children um, according to their thoughts and feelings rather than, as you see, according to their biological character and makeup, which is it's very damaging actually to the children. But it's a political move. It's a political move, and you're caught right in the center of that. And that's a very new thing for Barbados.
Yes, it is. It is. It is, and for the rest of the Caribbean, because as far as we are aware, this has not happened to any other group before who would have presented a theatrical piece or an artistic piece based on their faith and based on science. As far as we know, it has never happened before, and so we believe that it is important that this is dealt with in the right way, and we have to make sure we know what is it that our leaders are saying to us. What's the government saying to us? Currently, there are some laws that are before our parliament and our senate at the moment, and one of them is the changing of our constitution. And with this changing of the constitution, there are lots of language that they're changing, and there is a sexual orientation that they want to add. And first of all, they want to remove the word God from the constitution here in Barbados, and they want to.
Yeah, I was just going to talk about that for a minute because Barbados is very historically Christian. It's a very God-fearing nation. The people are historically churchgoers, so to say. And just what you had just said about how you received standing ovations for this presentation from the public. Like, it's not the public, the general public, who are saying, oh, this is horrible. Like, you received a standing ovation, and yet a certain committee decides that this is not acceptable. That kind of sounds like what's happening. And now the government is changing policy.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, they're getting ready to. The charter has already been passed, and now by 2024, this is supposed to go to the parliament and to the Senate to get it into law in our constitution, and that's an area of concern for us. You see, what's happening is that we now have a very progressive leader. Our Prime Minister, Mia Moore Motley, is loved by the world and by the UN and all of those international agencies, and mainly because of what she promotes. And this is one of those things that she promotes, where this whole thing where we need to become a progressive society. We need to remove God from our constitution. And they are basically pushing a secular environment. They have just removed the Buggery laws from the books. They've now come up, apart from the constitution that they are seeking to put into law, there's a very dangerous bill called the Child Protection Bill, which basically takes away the rights of the parents. So, Dr. Ad, you're in Canada, so you can understand exactly what this trajectory is.
Yes.
When the parental rights are taken, then it means that it's the government that is taking that place of the parent. And we now see what the government is promoting. Here we have children who are doing a presentation, an artistic presentation based on Genesis 1:27 and based on biology that they learn in school. And they are told it's wrong. Do you see the confusion? So, and this is the same government that is pushing forward this new constitution and the child protection bill. So as far as I'm concerned, Barbados is in a very precarious position.
I would agree. And we're going to actually do a second segment. And within that segment, we're going to insert a portion of the presentation that was actually disqualified so that people get an understanding of what we're talking about here. But one of the things that I found, and when I think about this, the parents are supportive of the children doing this presentation. The children love it, and they love the theater, and they love the message, and the community loves the message, but the government thinks that everyone is
Just
out of
the
step.
government. Just the government, Dr. And I love the way you said that and how you've broken that down and really simplify that for people, because we need to understand the culture of Barbados and just what we are accustomed to. The children they went on that stage from age 10 to teenage years, and they went on that stage, Dr. Ann, and they were saying what they learned at school, what they learned at Sunday school, and what they learned at our institution, because we're a praise academy. The word praise there says that we are Christian based. We're open to everybody. We have some of those same children who come to us and said, "But I'm not even sure what I am. I'm struggling as well." So we help everybody. However, when our presentations are based on the Word of God, we stand on the Bible. And we enter into a lot of secular spaces because of the excellence of what we do. We do a lot of training, we do a lot of prayer, yes, but we also make sure that we are able to meet the standards that are set for these different secular stages that we mount. And so we were not disqualified based on the technical quality of the content, but based on just the content, the story, based on what the message of what we were saying.
Very biased, very discriminatory, very the sense where in Canada, we hear about everything is about diversity and inclusion. And yet,
Yes.
we've experienced the same kind of things in the Christian realm. But here you're getting this, there's no inclusion of your perspective and of the perspective of the vast majority of Asian people. Like, it's just, the government now just ignores the people, right? Ignores the people and what they want in favor of pushing a particular ideology. So we're going to talk more. We're going to come back for a second show, and we're going to talk more about the production itself, also about the Recover All. Maybe we'll just actually let's finish with a little bit about Recover All, because I think we'll finish that and then we'll go into the next show, because I want to talk about what then are some next steps. So Recover All is where that was the symposium that I was invited to speak with, and that was wonderful. So there were 5 international speakers, and I thought it was such an excellent symposium that you put together in less than 2 months. That was absolutely amazing. What was your perspective after it was all over? We'll finish with that, and then we'll break and do another show.
Yes. When it was all done, I mean, of course, I was just relieved because it just happened in such a short span of time, and came out of my experience at the IFTCC conference in Poland. and which was amazing. I was just, my mind was blown with the level of information and education that we were getting there at that particular conference, and meeting people like yourself. I mean, in the field, we were having the creme de la creme in Poland, and so I reached out to Mike, and I told Mike, I just can't remember his last name right now, but explained to him, he's Mike Davidson, and who is one of the directors of Core Issues Trust. And Core Issues Trust, they were the producers of this conference that we went to. And the conference really was about turning the tide as it relates to this particular issue, the whole gender confusion, etc. And when I was there is when we got the message of what happened in Barbados of the disqualification, and I thought, there is no way I can deal with this by myself. I've never been to Spain before, Dr. Ann. I was like, and Davida Holligan, Maynard Holligan, a lawyer, she was with me from Barbados, and we thought, oh, we are going to be stepping into an ant's nest when we get back. So we need to get some of these stalwarts to come to Barbados. And that's when we approached you, Dr. Ann, about coming to Barbados. And also Glenn Stanton from Focus on the Family. And of course, we got Philippa Davis from Jamaica, who was with us as well, and Bishop Victor Gill from Trinidad. So these were those who came from overseas. And I know you asked me, how do I feel now that it's over? How do I feel about what happened? But I had to give the genesis of it so that you could understand that we were really novices going in, never did anything like that. We're an art school, I did my own little research online. And here we were with these big stalwarts, coming in. And you guys, Dr. Ann, you were amazing. You are amazing. The pastors are talking about your book. Already they wanted to come back because you did such an amazing job, because you are able to peel back everything and go and just kind of pull it all back and let us see what is really the foundation of all of this, what's really going on behind there. And that's what you did for us here at Barbados. And, people like myself, my husband, who deal with young people here, say, we've got to have you back. Your book, it's here at the school with me. I wish I could lay my hand on it right now to show you, but my husband is finished reading that book.
Which one is that? Is that
the story?
The children's story.
Grace?
Whatever happened to Emily?
Emily, right? Emily. I keep saying Grace. I haven't read it yet. That's going to be what I'm reading over Christmas time. And he's on to another book that is unlike my husband. And we now have 2 copies of it here, and we're planning to use it in our rehearsal time. So we would read sections of it to the children. So when you ask me about what are my thoughts about what has occurred at the Recover All, what I say is this, that it is what came out of that was life-changing. We were hearing things that we never heard before. When you think of Philippa Davis and her giving us the history, wasn't that amazing? She was giving us the history of this whole gender confusion, and all the terminologies and all of that, and the whole sexual identity culture, giving us that history. When you think of Stanton, Glenn Stanton is talking about us about, help, how do I reach my LGBTQ neighbor? Those are the kinds of topics that we were dealing with in the sessions, and you dealt a lot with trauma and parents and how to guard your child and so on. Amazing. And time will tell, but I believe that we're going to see the fruit of the Recover All. I believe it's going to happen because,
I'm praying for that. And, I just felt teary when you were talking about whatever happened to Emily and reading it to the children. That just makes me very emotional because that to me, that is why I do what I do, right? And these children are so beautiful, and we just want them to be, we want them to grow up whole and healthy and not body, soul, and spirit. We don't want them to be their minds infiltrated with unhealthy thoughts. And I'm excited that you're seeing, and preparing for other things, because I think that's what's needed. Well, let's stop there. One thing I want to ask, would you please give viewers your website so they can go and check out what you do? You've got some wonderful things on there, and your films, you've got your productions. It's just a great website. So why don't you get that to the viewers now, and we'll add it at the end as well, so that people will have it to take home with them, so to speak, and they make sure they connect with you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Ann. Well, it's a praiseacademyofdance.org. Praise, like the word praise, praiseacademyofdance.org. That's one website. And then there's the marciaweekesshow.com. The marciaweekesshow.com. And I'm sure we're going to have that, somewhere there that you'll be able to copy it and see what it is.
Awesome. I hope that those listening will check out your show and check out your website, and that God will just bless you richly for what you're doing, Marcia, and those group that are coming around you. And I just pray for great wisdom in the days ahead. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Well, thank you, everyone, for listening to our show today. I hope you enjoyed my special guest from Barbados, Marcia Weekes. She's a wonderful lady, and she has a great vision for the children of Barbados. Also, please check out her contact information and my books and my website at restoringthemosaic.ca. She was talking about my children's book, Whatever Happened to Emily, which I encourage you to look into and to perhaps consider even purchasing for your children. Thank you for watching. And this is our last show before the new year. Actually, it will be shown in the new year, but it's pre-recorded. So I'll just say Merry Christmas to everyone and a very happy New Year and 2024. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.
You've been listening to Truth Talks with Dr. Ann. Thank you so much for joining us today. You can find Ann's books, blog, and sign up for the newsletter by going to restoringthemosaic.ca.